My name is Queen Zoya Counts. Welcome to my channel when Zoya Speaks. Did y'all happen to be scrolling through TikTok and ran across this man's video? I did. And actually was on my For You page. And he's up here talking about how people fake intelligence. Like people have no critical thinking skills. Let's get into it.
That's how everybody's intelligent until real intellect walks in the room, or how everybody's a critical thinker until it's time to actually think critically. Then you see who's been studying the truth and who's just rehearsing opinions. You see, we live in a time now where intelligence is a trend. People don't study, they just scroll.
What he is saying is true. We are living in a society now where opinions are not real. It's like people are regurgitating things that they heard and taking it on as their own. They're scrolling to find the latest fad, what's popping now, so that they can throw in a few words to make it seem as if they know what they're talking about.
They don't reflect, they simply react. They can memorize talking points from podcasts, memes, and then call it research. But the minute you ask for a source, logic, or context, they fall apart every single time. And that's because real intellect requires real world experience.
That is true. A lot of times when I am talking about things, I talk about what has happened to me. I talk about my experience. I don't try to live in the past a lot, but everything that I share comes from a personal experience. And I feel like the wisdom that I got from that, I could share with others.
How can you understand truth without pressure? How can you know wisdom if you've never been tested? And that's because experience, it humbles you. It teaches you that life don't move by theory, it moves by principle. You see, a man who's been broke, betrayed, or blindsided, but still got up and rebuilt afterwards, he thinks differently.
Yes,
He
he
doesn't
does.
get high off of opinions.
Nope.
He's grounded in reality because he's actually lived the consequences of his own choices.
Yeah, that's true.
You see, the problem today is that people like to confuse access to information with intellect. I
Yes.
mean, just because you can Google something doesn't mean you understand it.
And that is so true. And a lot of people Google stuff and they read it and then they get an understanding. No, you got to do your research. You got to sit with that information. You got to study and you got to use your brain. You got to use your thinking skills to see how can it all make sense for you.
Knowledge without experience is like having muscle with no motion. I mean, you might look strong, but you can't lift the damn thing. And then the receipts are everywhere.
Now, me being part of the spiritual community, and I say that not because I'm part of a tribe, like I'm part of a whole group of people and this is what we do. This is all. No, I'm saying it as far as me knowing who I am, and in the spiritual community, you will find that a lot of people know the right lingo to talk, the right words to say, how to speak all spiritually, but they all messed up inside. They're just regurgitating, there go that word again, what other people have told them, what they have seen in videos.
If you want to talk facts, most people are not critical thinkers, they're confirmation seekers. A 2021 study shows that nearly 70% of social media users share headlines that they never read.
That's true. Now, back when we got hit with that thing that happened in 2020 and going into 2021, There were a lot of people who were seeing headlines and just posting the headlines up without reading the article itself. Anytime I go on Newsmax, I read the article and then I go look at the comments, and you can tell in the comment section that the majority of the people, that number might be slightly higher, have not even taken the time to read the article itself, because headlines can be very deceiving.
Let that sink in. They don't even analyze the information, they just chase validation. And that's why misinformation spread faster than facts do, because it feels good to the ego. Even the education system doesn't teach thinking, it teaches compliance. In 1903, when John Rockefeller funded the General Education Board, you can look this up, his goal wasn't to create thinkers, it was to create workers.
And that's what people have become. Not so much in the sense of working and maintaining a job, but doing the legwork so as not to produce thinkers. My husband bought a card deck on critical thinking, and on the card there's a statement, and then you have to do some critical thinking about that statement. So working, he didn't want thinkers, because if you're thinking, then that means that you can shut certain systems down that they put into play. But if you are working, if you are spreading the misinformation, then it all is part of the system, and you have become their worker.
And in his exact words, he said, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. So most people were trained to repeat what they're told and never to question it. Even history proves that real intellect is always attacked first. Just look at Malcolm X, a man with no college degree who could outthink professors, journalists, and politicians. They called him dangerous because he questioned their narratives.
And that's true. Anytime you question a person's narrative, you are dangerous. Look at what's going on in the world. Look at what's going on with the left, the right. Look what's going on with the socialists, the conservatives. Look what's going on. If you question the narrative, then you're dangerous. People will say, if you have any questions, ask me. And then when a person asks a question, you get offended because they asked you the question, because you gave them permission, basically, to ask a question that you really did not have an answer for. It's crazy.
Or we can go back even further. You can look at Socrates. He was executed for corrupting the youth simply by teaching them to think. Real intellect has always been treated as a rebellion of some sort.
I was watching this cartoon, and it might be anime, so please, you guys, don't be upset with me, or adult cartoons, or whatever you guys call it. Castlevania. I had seen all 4 seasons of Castlevania, even the new Castlevania. So this week, I started to go back. I said, I'm going to go back and rewatch Castlevania. And when I went and rewatched Castlevania, Isaac, he was a forge master, which means that he had a specific tool that he could use to bring the dead back. And when he brought someone back, he was having a conversation with them, and he asked him, he said, who are you? Who were you? And he said, I was a philosopher in Greece. And he said that I was prompting people to think. And the church got upset with me and labeled me as the sinner, because they didn't want me to put out what I was putting out. And that was in an adult cartoon. And that came out a few years ago. So, yeah.
That's because experience sharpens intellect like struggle sharpens your character. The man who's been homeless, betrayed, oppressed, but studied and reflected through it, he gains a type of discernment that no textbook can give. He learns how people really move, how systems really work, and how emotions can be used to manipulate you.
Yes. Have you ever been in a situation where a person will try to play on your emotions to manipulate you? Try to make you feel sad or make you feel bad to manipulate you. And then you fall into their trap, and the next thing you know, you are spreading that manipulation.
That's what you call wisdom through warfare. And because of that, look at the culture now. We got people quoting psychology terms like gaslighting, trauma, and narcissist, but never read a fucking psychology book in their life.
Exactly. So maybe I'm old school, but the first time I heard the word your feels, like your feels, what do you mean? And then I realized that everybody on social media was talking about, oh, your feels, your feels. Narcissist. I never even heard of what narcissist was. I didn't even know what that meant. Maybe, I even got a book over there that I bought on titled Dark Psychology. And I read the book just to understand what that word meant. And they're so quick to throw that around as if they really know because someone said that this is what this is, but they have not, some people have not truly experienced that. Let's continue.
They just use buzzwords to sound intellectual. That's not critical thinking, that's just emotional vocabulary dressed up as intelligence. I know the difference. Or you can even look at politics. How everybody's woke until the truth offends their favorite party. Then suddenly logic don't even matter no more.
Nope.
They say, do your research. But what they really mean is find something that agrees with me.
Right.
Tell me I'm lying.
Right.
That's not critical thinking, that's tribal comfort.
That's it.
Hell, you can even look at religion. People can quote scripture, but not the context. They cherry pick scripture to defend their lifestyle instead of transforming themselves through it.
And not even choosing scripture. Like I said, this is all in spirituality. And they will even try to go as far as to use certain buzzwords again. Awakening, ascension, to make themselves feel important. Yeah.
That's why when a man who's actually studied, lived it, and applies it daily, soon as he walks in the room, that's when everybody get quiet. Because divine intellect, it cuts right through the hypocrisy without raising its voice.
That's true. I remember I would be around certain people who I thought had more wisdom and knowledge than I did. And they would say some things dealing with spirituality that didn't sound right to me. But because I felt like they had more experience, I would dumb myself down. And I would follow what they were saying because I really didn't know. And all they were doing was manipulating me.
You see, real intellect isn't emotional. It's about strategy. It doesn't debate for attention. It dissects for clarity, like I do on my platform. It's calm under pressure because it's been tested in fire already. And that's why the loudest ones usually know the least. They're trying to hide insecurity by being loud. A man with true intellect doesn't need to dominate a conversation. His presence does that just by being there. He's seen too much, he's learned too much, and he's survived too much to waste his time arguing with the blind. You can tell who's never experienced real struggle also, by the way, because they love to romanticize it. They like to speak on masculinity without having to lead. They talk about discipline without ever being tempted once in their life. And then they can quote God, but never had to depend on him. experience gives intellect its edge. That's why some of the wisest people you'll ever meet never set foot in a university. That's simply because life was their classroom and pain was their professor. You see, in Divine Separation, my platform, intellect isn't about showing off. It's about seeing clearly. It's about separating lies from insight, pride from purpose, and people who are followers from people that are actually thinkers. It's about understanding that most people don't hate intellect. They simply just hate intellect, hate what intellect reveals about them. You see, real intellect forces accountability. It makes people confront their ignorance, their inconsistencies, and their emotional reactions. And that's why real thinkers get labeled as arrogant, cold, or elitist. Because the truth, it doesn't stroke their ego, it simply exposes them. So when you walk in with real intellect, backed by study, struggle, and discernment, you don't just speak different, you move different also. You can see the deception before it even speaks. You can sense the manipulation before it unfolds. And then on top of that, you stop mistaking being loud for knowledge, because it isn't. That's divine intellect. Intellect that comes from God, logic, and application. Not your pride, not your college degrees, not online approval. Because everybody's intelligent until real intellect enters the room. Everybody's a critical thinker until they're faced with actual critical thinking. Let that sink in.
Yes. Let that sink in. Man, it ain't too much that I can add or react to what he said, because that's wisdom. That's intellect. And what is so crazy about what he said is that this is going to go over people's heads. It will. Wow. Yeah. Y'all don't get it. Do you? My name is Queen Zawaya Counts. Thank you for giving me 17 minutes of your time to watch my video. If you like what you heard, comment. If you want to subscribe, you can. If you don't, it's okay. As long as you enjoyed watching the video. See you next time.